Hey everybody, it's your pal Andrew here, and today we're going to take a look at the Data Corruptor pedal, a PLL synthesis pedal from our friends at Earthquaker Devices. Absolutely gnarly harmonics, gnarly. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Data Corruptor pedal from Earthquaker Devices, my favorite pedal company. And this is a pedal that epitomizes the phrase fuck around and find out. In fact, it's probably one of the most, if not the most, fuck around and find out pedals that I've ever messed with. And I've been messing around with pedals for a long time now. It is a pedal that is essentially a 3-voice harmonizer pedal. Earthquaker calls it a PLL synth, or they say it's kind of like a PLL synth, which we'll get into that in a second as best I can. It is a chaos machine. It's a pedal that you can dial in to do actually quite usable stuff, synthy sounds, harmonized sounds, but generally it does a whole kind of thing. You've probably heard it. It's become famous for doing the whole ew dives and all that stuff, but you don't have to do that. It does plenty of other things beside that. Let's talk about what my amp setup is so you can know what you're hearing. So today I'm using my Fender Concert 2, which is a single 12-inch speaker. That's an 82 Fender Concert 2 and a 1970 twin Reverb. And both of those are being microphoned. And aside from the Data Corruptor, which you'll hear, the only other thing I'm using is a slower pedal from Walrus Audio, and that's helping everything have a little bit of wet stereo reverb. I just like to have things a little reverbed out when I play, just a little bit, just so it's a little more damp. Okay, so other than that, let's get into this thing. I want to just kind of take you through some of the controls. Another thing I just want to say is, if you've seen my videos before and you've been able to make it through them, you're probably asking yourself, why the f does this guy talk so much? I get that that bothers people. Basically, I make videos however I want, and this is not meant to be like an ultimate serious demo video or anything. There's plenty of those on the Data Corruptor pedal, which is frankly an older pedal now. This is a, I think I want to get a Data Corruptor and I'd like to nerd out about it. I'd like to just devour every video and read everything I can find about the Data Corruptor, because if you're like me, and you probably are, you get gear acquisition syndrome, you get absolute OCD nerd out, and you want to just absorb everything, in this case, data corruptor related. If you just bought this thing online, you're waiting for a Earthquaker to send it to you, you're thinking about getting it at the store. We're just having a nerd hangout, right? The other thing is you probably want to know, well, what the does the data corruptor do? So we'll get into that too. All right, let's look at the controls. Oh, here's my clean tone too. Just clean tone, a little bit of reverb. Right? Okay. Controls wise, up at the top here, this is 3 voices. Each one of these has its own volume control. We'll get into that in a second. So each of the 3 voices has its own volume, and then you have one master volume which controls the blend of the 3 voices you have here. So you've got voice control, overall volume control, master volume. Then over here on this side, so you've got a subharmonic section, you've got a master oscillator section, you have the frequency modulator section, a couple other little selectors here, so you can essentially choose what the root note is here. We'll see more about that in a little bit. And then you have a root selector over here. So each one of these oscillator section has a root selector, and then you've got your on and off switch. Up here you've got a glide / vibrato setting. We'll look at that a little bit. The frequency modulator thing here, this is what's going to kind of control some of the madness that happens. And I don't really know exactly how it works, but you'll see. Controls some of the madness that happens from the oscillators. So this pedal, as Earthquaker describes it, is a PLL synth type pedal. Like I said, it's a harmonizer type pedal. It's monophonic. I think it sounds like when you have the oscillators going, it's trying to fight to get, follow the signal that you put in. But it tracks really well on single notes. Creates some really usable, gnarly chaos when you're trying to do chords, which is pretty neat if you're trying to come up with something nasty in sonic chaos. And it's totally fuck around, find out pedal. This is a phase lock loop type circuit. And the way I understand it, which is very minimally, is when you play the guitar into it, the master oscillator grabs your signal, evaluates it, sends out another signal, which it then feeds back into itself, and it creates all this harmonic sonic chaos, which I don't even know if I'm describing that correctly. Shame on me. But at any rate, this is a pedal that you can just start twisting knobs and come up with stuff. So let's mess around a little bit with it. Turn it on. Okay, so I don't have any of the voice volumes up right now, but I'm going to go one by one and show you what they do. So here is your square wave, which is kind of like a gnarly fuzz, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. A little more master volume. So here it's just like a really thick, nasty fuzz. It's a square wave fuzz. This control just affects the volume in the blend of voices. So that's one of your voices, is that fuzz. I'll turn that down. I'll go on to the next voice here. Make sure my stupid mic is still on me. The next thing, and I might be going backwards here in terms of the way the pedal listens to your signal. But next up is the subharmonic oscillator. So I'll turn that up a little bit. So you can kind of see what I was talking about as a monophonic synthesizer. It's really fighting to figure out, if you play multiple notes, which note to grab onto and process. But it kind of sounds cool. It's got some sonic chaos to that there. Oh yeah, you hear it kind of interpolating and all these artifacts from trying to grab onto a particular signal. But that in and of itself is pretty cool. Anyways, yeah, subharmonic oscillator really tracks beautifully. That's one thing I should say about the data corruptor is as a harmony pedal or a harmonizer pedal, it tracks really, really tightly, really close, so it's great for leads and stuff. All right, so sub control here, or your volume control. So this has the subharmonic oscillator section. So I want to show you here what this actually does. This is an 8-way switch, right? So my hand's getting in the way here on the video, but it's an 8-way switch. See how I'm turning those? Boom, 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 boom. So what that does is each one of those 8 positions corresponds with this handy little guide here that shows you what it's doing. And what that is from the top down is the settings are 1 octave, unison, 1 octave, fifth, 2 octaves, unison, 2 octaves, major third. So you've got 2 octaves fifth, 2 octaves minor seventh, 3 octaves unison, and 3 octaves major second. So it's got a whole bunch of harmonization options there. So I'll show you kind of what that's doing. Right off, I have that in 1 octave unison. One octave fifth, 2 octaves unison, 2 octaves major third, 2 octaves fifth, gnarly. Listen to that, man, that's crazy. Okay, 2 octaves, here we go, turn it, 2 octaves minor 7. 3 octaves in unison. Really getting down low with the sub there. And then 3 octaves major second. Okay, so that's your subharmonic oscillator. And that's this voice here, right? Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's go to your regular oscillator. So over on this side, the master oscillator section, same thing. We've got 8 selector positions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that same thing, you've got a guide over here on the right-hand side. So the way that works out on the master oscillators, the first setting is unison, unison, 1 octave unison, then 1 octave fifth, then 2 octaves unison, then 2 octaves major third, 2 octaves fifth, 2 octaves minor seventh, and then 3 octaves unison. So let's mess around with those and hear what that does. So there's unison, unison. Oh, that Velcro. Okay, unison, unison. 1 octave unison. 1 octave fifth. 2 octaves unison. 2 octaves major third. 2 octaves fifth. 2 octaves fifth. 2 octaves minor seventh. And then 3 octaves in unison. Tell your dog I said hi. Okay, so there's that ew thing. So the data corruptor is famous for that. It's one of the things that it does, I guess, as a result of the PLL synthesis situation of the circuit, but it doesn't always have to do that. You can actually set it differently. So one of the ways I wanted to show you that that gets affected is when you mess around with the FM control. So notice how I turn that knob here when I'm turning the FM control and I turn it clockwise, it shortens the tail and eventually becomes almost like a Velcro-y rippy sound all the way clockwise. And when you turn it counterclockwise, you get more of a tail. Ooh. So I love the way when you turn it from noon counterclockwise, it almost is like it's opening up like a Velcro gate, right? Whoa, yeah. Up and down. Let's go all the way this way. Let that phase complete and crash and burns at the end of it. And I'm on the glide setting here. This little selector here is the glide setting. What happens if I switch this down to vibrato? Again, I'm on the vibrato setting here, right? This switch is set to vibrato. It looks like the more counterclockwise I turn it, it gets a really crazy, unruly, just gnarly, a really haunted oscillation. And look, it's like gated, you know? And when I turn it to noon, seems like it's speeding up the oscillation as I go from noon clockwise. And it gates. And it's kind of touch sensitive too. It's like the harder you play or the softer you play, the more like the signal comes through on that oscillator. Or it does not and just causes like artifact sonic chaos. Okay, so remember, this is controlled with either this glide setting or the vibrato setting here. The haunted sound is coming from the vibrato. Go back up to glide. Mess around with these settings a little bit here. Fifth. All right, so what's going on over here with this root setting here? I want to see what that root does. I keep checking my microphone because I can't even tell you how frustrating that was. I made like literally 40 minutes into a video, looked down and realized that my microphone had come off. Okay, so when I bend over here, if you see me like looking at my chest, I'm not looking at Ralphie here. I'm looking to see if my microphone's still working. FYI. All right, so this root. So that sounds like it's changing your root note, dropping from 1 octave down. It's either unison, 1 octave down, or 2 octaves down. That's 2 octaves down. One octave down. Okay, so what's happening is, thank you, R2. Whatever setting you have this set to here, if you have this set to unison, it sounds like where the master oscillator is concerned, this root setting is where it kicks in that effect. So with unison, it sounds like it's just taking every setting you have here and it's jumping octaves. But if I set this, like let's say to the 5th here, and change this down, change the root down an octave, you hear the 5th come in. Super gnarly. All right, let's go 2 octaves down on that 5th. I turned down the FM, or I turned it up rather, clockwise from noon to kind of get rid of some of that tail. 1 octave. I guess I should probably note too that I've been using only my neck pickup here because that seems to be, and I think Earthquaker has mentioned that as well, that with your neck pickup, it really brings out those octave and harmonic effects a lot. So I'm just kind of using it, kind of a neck pickup guy mostly anyway, so. It's pretty cool where it goes, wham! 2 octaves in unison. Two octaves, major third. So not really for chords, right? But good for leads and stuff. Although that's a really cool effect for chords. So I flipped that vibrato glide switch to vibrato and it went. All right, so all this stuff I've been doing is using one voice at a time. So now we're gonna try to blend the voices, right? And see what that does. So let me start with turning down everything. I think we're gonna put a little bit of square wave in there. Then let's add some of the subharmonic. So right there in that setting, it's like a really tight, gatey, gnarly fuzz. And it really, because it's monophonic, it really wants lead notes. But if you want that sonic chaos, try some chords. Really gets thick with that subharmonic oscillator in the mix. If you do like 2 notes, forgot I was on the subharmonic. It's really crazy how well this tracks. I mean, I honestly don't sense very much latency at all. Major third. Fifth. It says it's 2 octaves down. Okay, so this FM switch or knob here, I guess it makes sense, but that section here, it only really seems to affect things when you're messing with the master oscillator side. And right now I don't have the master oscillator side even in the mix. I just am using the square wave and then the subharmonic oscillator. So I'm going to keep messing with that a little bit. Negative 2 or down 2 octaves, minor 7th. Some Cecil Taylor shit. All right, here we go. Cecil? So this is down 3 octaves in unison. Down 3 octaves, major 2nd. Deliciously farty. Okay, so what we've been hearing is the square wave, which is like your fuzz signal, unaffected by harmonics, I believe, and then your subharmonic oscillator. So now I think I'm going to get crazy and add in all 3 voices. Let's put the oscillator in there on like kind of an even blend here. Okay, I'm going to leave the subharmonic at just like the 1 octave unison, and I'm going to start messing around over here in the glide setting with the master helicopter just flew over. Master oscillator here, and this is going to be starting from the top. I'm going to go with the unison setting. 1 octave up, unison. And I brought back the tail, right? So let's mess with this. I'm going to kill the tail for now with that FM knob here. So I'm just going to leave it kind of set like this. Maybe not all the way down, but maybe just up a little bit. Because I like where if you don't totally kill that tail, it leaves a little bit of Velcro-iness. I like it where it just starts to complain a little bit. All right, 1 octave fifth. Octaves unison. And then the other thing, notice it's gating a lot, but it's not really, because it's gated, it's not really a noisy pedal when you're not opening up that gate with your playing, which is cool. Hear how chords are kind of a mess, but a beautiful mess? So I think what's happening there is your master oscillator is trying really hard in a monophonic way to track the notes that are coming in, and it's getting all the different sounds from these chords beating on it, and it's trying to figure out and task manage where to go, and it just comes out absolutely gorgeous, right? Beautiful noise. Usable? I don't know. Let's see here. So I'm kind of showing you here is that famous kind of data corrupter, R2D2 shit. You don't have to have that. It doesn't have to do that all the time. So I've got this FM knob all the way down here on the oscillator. Crazy, right? Okay. Okay, so I am not a mathematician, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how many combinations you have between the different settings on the oscillators there. I'm sure somebody out there right now is saying, it's like 3,222, you idiot. Good for you. That's cool. I like math. The data corrupter settings, one of the beautiful things about this pedal is there are so many combinations that you can come up with. When you're fucking with the two oscillators, you can just get some really, really crazy combinations to put into your music. Create so much chaos. If you're into noise things, this is like an essential pedal for that. It's just absolutely insane. I'm hoping maybe you can pick out on the screen here, you know, what the different settings are when I flip to them. You can kind of use your imagination, and if you hear me doing something, just know that the pedal's capable of it, right? So let's just mess around here. I like the lower settings a little bit more on the master oscillator. The master oscillator, when set to the higher settings, really starts to get crazy and and really piercing with some of the higher octaves that get added to the mix there. And again, that's what is getting fed in and back into itself, is those octaves that you have selected. So the other thing I haven't really been messing with is this here, which is your root selector. And remember, this is unison, 1 octave down, 2 octaves down. Let's kind of mess with that a little bit while we're screwing around here. Again, see, there's no tail, tail right now. But I could do this. Okay, so that's your vibrato setting. Anyway, let's mess around with this here. Chords. So for really gnarly sound effects, this thing has you covered. If you want to like destroy the world, this is what's up. So one thing I forgot to mention again in this go round of messing with it is this is what opens up the oscillator to let these different harmonic variations come into the mix, right? Come into play. So let's go back up here. This is unison, 1 octave, and I'm going to open it up to the root. The root is going to be 1 octave down. That's 5th. No tail. Let's make a tail. Okay, so my tail, my Super Mario Bros. Death there is happening at 2 octaves down here, I guess. Let's go back to 1 octave, see if it makes it a higher tail. Yeah. Go way up here. Yeah. So when you start to get your FM, you know, your frequency modulation happening counterclockwise here, that's when you get into like what the fuck is happening territory, which is really cool. If you don't want that so much and you want something that's a little more playable and usable, maybe keep it on the clockwise side with the FM. Then you hear it slowly opening that gate. Right? Little tiny tail on that. So many combinations. All right, one thing I want to try, let's turn off the square wave. The square wave in this case with this pedal kind of works as like something, it like keeps everything focused and gives you like some, like a tonal center, because it's actually working just like a big muffy kind of fuzz, a little more square wavy, but it gives some focus to what you're playing. Let's see what happens if I turn that off and only use the 2 oscillators. So what's happening there is the 2 oscillators are playing and beating off that sounded wrong. I don't know, they're like playing off one another, and as your note decays, the phasing that's happening between the two harmonies or synthesizers are reacting differently, creating weird little noises and stuff. I didn't do anything. It's just as the note decays, it's passing through different phases, creating different harmonics as they kind of... I'm playing one note on the guitar. Entirely beautiful. So there's no square wave fuzz on this. This is just the two harmonic voices, the two oscillator voices, but let's fade in some of the fuzz again. I think I want to try putting this into some reverb and delay other than the reverb that I have on it, but I'm going to open up Dispatch Master right after the data corruptor and hear what it sounds like. So this is what the Dispatch Master is doing in the signal chain here. Just one, some more reverb and one delay to it. I just switched over this root side on the subharmonic and it made this difference. Watch, let's listen to that again. So that's -1 octave at a fifth on the subharmonic. Turn down that square wave fuzz again. Bring it back in. No tail. Some really beautiful, rippy, Velcro-y fuzz. Turn off all my oscillators. Just that really beautiful square wave fuzz. If you're into like really heavy saturated fuzz, this pedal is absolutely insane. And a very wise choice to bolster your pedal collection. All right, so I'm gonna leave the square wave fuzz up. I'm gonna bring up the oscillator, master oscillator. No tail? Let's get a tail in there. So remember, I still have that dispatch master on for some reverb and delay, but let me turn that back off. It sounds really nice when you add some reverb and delay to it. It makes it a little bit more dimensional, softens things up a little bit. And if you're going to do some sort of harmony stuff in your music or in a live setting, if you wanted to do leads with it or just total all-out sonic chaos, Data Corruptor is your pedal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to necessarily cover on this, because again, this could be like a 2-hour video easily. Pretty long video. That vibrato setting is totally haunted. It's crazy. Maybe find a nice little setting here. All right, so the main moral of the story is on the Data Corruptor, it is a totally usable pedal. You can come up with some great lead sounds with it. The way you dial it in will determine whether or not it's total chaos or if it's something that's usable. I believe that this pedal, from like a conventional guitar standpoint, is absolutely a pedal for people that want to experiment with leads and layering up harmonies and stuff like that. If you're going to record in a live setting, I mean, you could do some of that crazy, I don't know, Tom Schultz-y, Billy Corgan-y, kind of like hummy, harmonic-y type of things. Otherwise, if you're wanting to just let it make insane noises and stuff like that, this pedal absolutely can do that for you too. Have it in your sonic arsenal for recording or whatever. I highly recommend the Data Corruptor. Thanks everybody for watching another one of my super long videos and for bearing with my obnoxious demeanor here. But like I said, I was a little slap happy after losing my previous video on Data Corruptor. So this is kind of like a do-over. Hope it comes out good. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you on the next episode of Gear and Loathing. Thanks, everybody.